A 0% APR purchase can feel financially harmless, but no interest is not the same as no cost. Sometimes the thing you bought is cheap on paper and expensive in the part of your life that matters most, your monthly breathing room. By the end of this video, you should have a much cleaner way to judge whether 0% financing is genuinely helping you manage cash well, or whether it is turning future income into a softer, easier to ignore kind of financial drag. That is where a lot of people get this wrong. They hear 0% and assume the danger is gone. And sometimes it is. Sometimes 0% financing is perfectly reasonable. But a lot of the time, interest was never the whole problem. The bigger issue is that financing can make a purchase feel lighter than it really is. It shifts your attention toward the payment and away from the commitment. And once that happens, it becomes much easier to buy something that fits the offer but does not really fit your life. That is the angle here. This is not a broad video about how APR works. It is about why a no-interest purchase can still make you poorer when it turns future income into fixed obligation and leaves you with less room than you thought. Because being poorer does not always mean paying more in interest. Sometimes it means having less flexibility, less margin, and less room to deal with normal life after the purchase stops feeling exciting. Imagine a simple example. You buy a phone for $1,200 on 0% APR over 12 months. That is $100 a month, no interest. Clean terms. On paper, that looks disciplined. But now that $100 is gone for the next year, it is not there for an insurance increase, it is not there for a car repair, it is not there for rebuilding cash after travel, a move, or a medical bill. And if your normal monthly cushion was only $250 after bills and saving, that one phone just took 40% of it. That matters more than many people think because most financial stress does not come from one dramatic mistake. It comes from a life with too many small obligations already waiting for next month's income. That is where the false sense of safety begins. When interest is attached, people feel caution. They ask harder questions. Do I need this now? Can I really afford this? What is this costing me? But when the rate is 0, the financing starts to feel neutral. Sometimes it even feels responsible, like you are being smart by preserving cash. And sometimes preserving cash is smart. But it is only smart if the purchase still makes sense on its own, and if the payment does not make the rest of your finances tighter than they need to be. So the better rule is not, is the APR 0? The better rule is, what does this payment do to my life for the next 6, 12, or 24 months? That is the part many people skip. They think they are evaluating the cost of the item. What they are really doing is accepting a smaller future paycheck, month after month, in exchange for getting the item now. And once you say it that way, the decision starts to look different. Because future income has value, not just investment value or interest value, it has practical value, breathing room value, problem-solving value. Let's make that more concrete. Take two people buying the same $2,400 furniture package on 0% APR for 24 months. That is $100 a month. Person A has an $800 monthly surplus. Bills are covered, savings are on track, and there is still plenty left over most months. For that person, the payment may be mildly annoying, but it does not really change the shape of life. Person B also sees $100 a month and thinks that is manageable. But for them, the real surplus is only about $150 after rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and existing obligations. So that same payment does not take a small slice of room. It takes most of it. For person B, the financing did not just spread the cost, it changed the quality of the next 2 years. Same deal, same item, same monthly payment, not the same consequence. And that is why no-interest financing is not the same as safe financing. The terms do not tell you whether the decision is healthy. They only tell you one part of how the payment is priced. There is another layer here too. A lot of people do not use 0% financing to buy the exact same thing they would have bought with cash. They use it to buy sooner, or buy bigger, or buy nicer. That matters because the payment frame changes the decision frame. A $1,500 appliance becomes only $62 a month. A $3,000 laptop becomes only $125 a month. A nicer couch, a bigger TV, a more expensive dental package, a home gym setup, a designer mattress, a phone upgrade that was never urgent in the first place. These purchases often feel easier to justify when the full cost is hidden behind a manageable monthly number. That does not mean the buyer is irrational. It means the structure of the offer is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It reduces friction and shifts your attention away from total cost and toward monthly comfort. That can be useful when the purchase is necessary and well timed, but it can also make a maybe purchase feel like a yes purchase. And that is expensive, even without interest. Look at it this way: if you would hesitate to spend $1,200 in full today, but feel fine agreeing to 12 $100 payments, the financing is not just helping you pay. It is helping you decide, and there is a second cost hidden inside that. If that same $100 stayed in your budget each month for a year, that is $1,200 of extra room you would still control. Even before investing it, that kind of room can cover a repair, rebuild a small emergency fund, or stop one bad month from turning into new debt. That is not automatically bad, but it should make you more careful, not less. Because once a payment enters your monthly life, it competes with everything else that was going to need that money later. And most months are already spoken for faster than people want to admit. Rent or mortgage, insurance, food, transportation, existing debt, saving, repairs, renewals, gifts, random life admin that never makes the budget headline but keeps showing up anyway. So when someone says it is only $85 a month, the missing question is, only compared to what? Compared to the full price of the item, maybe. Compared to your remaining margin after life happens, maybe not. If your leftover room is $200 and the new payment is $85, you did not just add a small expense. You gave away more than 40% of your flexibility. That is the real cost. Not the APR, not the ad, and not the elegance of the financing offer. The cost is what happens when one more harmless-looking payment leaves you with less room than ordinary life requires. This is also why stacked payments are dangerous. One 0% plan can look fine, then another one gets added. A phone, a mattress, a piece of furniture. A dental plan, a new appliance. Each one sounds manageable on its own. But money is not experienced one purchase at a time. It is experienced as the total pressure of everything you are carrying at once. 3 harmless-looking payments, say $62, $85, and $100, are suddenly $247 a month. That is nearly $3,000 a year of cash flow no longer available for anything else. That is why a purchase can be technically affordable and still make your life worse. Not because it destroys you, but because it narrows you. It reduces your options, and options matter more than people think. Options are what let you absorb a bad month without reaching for a credit card. Options are what let you say yes to a genuine opportunity. Options are what let you fix something without turning it into a small emergency. Now, to keep this honest, there are cases where 0% financing is completely fine. If the purchase is necessary, the terms are truly clean. You already have the cash and the payment does not meaningfully weaken your monthly margin, then yes, that can be a rational way to preserve liquidity. A broken appliance, necessary dental work, a required repair. In cases like that, spreading the payment can be useful. Sometimes taking the 0% offer while keeping your cash in a better place is the cleaner move. But that only works if the financing is serving your plan, not if the financing became the reason the purchase happened. That is the distinction. If the item was already justified and 0% APR helps you execute the decision cleanly, that is one thing. If 0% APR is what made the purchase feel acceptable, then you should slow down. Because that usually means the offer is compensating for discomfort that your budget was trying to show you for a reason. So here's a practical filter. Before taking a 0% deal, ask 4 questions. First, would I still want this at the same price if financing were not available? Second, if this payment stays in my life for the full term, what does it reduce? Savings, margin, flexibility, recovery from surprises. Third, is this solving a real need, or is the structure of the payment making a nicer or faster purchase easier to defend? And fourth, if I add this on top of everything else I already carry, does my month still feel open enough to absorb normal problems? If the answer to that last question is no, then the purchase is not financially harmless just because the interest rate is. That is the lens, and it is a better lens than asking whether the deal looks good. A lot of bad money decisions look good in monthly form. People often think financial damage comes from obviously reckless behavior. Sometimes it does. But a lot of the time, it comes from decisions that felt reasonable and under control right up until life got a little more expensive than expected. That is why this topic matters for normal earners. Not because 0% financing is evil, not because every finance purchase is a mistake, but because the absence of interest can make the absence of caution feel justified. And those are not the same thing. A no interest purchase can still make you poorer when it takes away future room you are going to need for something else. So the next time a deal looks clean because the rate is 0, do not stop at the financing terms. Look at the part that will still be there 3, 6, or 12 months later. The part living inside your cash flow, the part competing with the rest of your life. Because interest-free is not the same as cost-free. And a purchase starts getting expensive the moment it makes ordinary life harder to carry. If you want more videos like this built around cleaner money decisions, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.